Hey friends, I hope y'all are having a great day today. If you're new, my name is Alicia and today's video is going to be a what's for dinner. And I'm not in my kitchen, I am in my papa's kitchen because it's a lot quieter in his kitchen right now than it is in mine. But anyways, I hope you'll enjoy. The first meal we're making is a pot roast in my cast iron pot. I seared it off on both sides and now I'm showing you everything that I'm seasoning it with. I'm making a broth with the brown gravy mix, the Badia garlic complete, the mushroom seasoning, that truffle parmesan seasoning, which I cannot find anymore, but that stuff was so good. It was at Sam's Club. And a lot of those seasonings I'm just using because, like the mushroom seasoning, I just wanted to use it up. But I also had carrot, celery, and potatoes. If I would have had onion, I would have added one of those too. Although you can see I didn't really quite have the room for it. But I roasted it for about 4 or 5 hours, and then I took it out and let it rest on my stove while I cooked my rolls in my oven. Those are just some quick rolls. I actually have my recipe on my YouTube channel already, but I topped mine with some Louisiana. The next meal I'm making is a chicken and vegetable rice soup. I didn't have a recipe for this, of course, but I just kind of winged it like I usually do. So I've got a package of Rice-A-Roni rice pilaf, and I'm going to saute the rice with the celery and onions and some butter and let those get nice and toasty before I start adding in all the rest of my ingredients. One thing that I didn't show in the video is I do add another half a cup of just regular rice once I've got everything else in the pot, because I just didn't think that that would be enough rice, just the box of Rice-A-Roni, because my family likes thicker stews or soups, if that makes sense. But anyways, I found this chicken marked down at Kroger. It was Mediterranean style chicken. I used about half of that bag in this recipe. And then I also added in a bag of frozen mixed vegetables, some Yukon Gold potatoes. I did leave the skin on those because they are soft. And then I sliced up a zucchini. Then there's the seasoning packet from the rice pilaf. I also add in some chicken bouillon. I also plan to add in some Badia Complete and salt and pepper, Italian seasoning I do believe I add in, and then just a whole bunch of water. And then, like I said, I added the half a cup of rice that y'all didn't see on camera. I think I added about 8 cups of water total. And then once I get everything in the pot, I'm just going to let this come up to a boil, and then I'm going to reduce the heat down and let it simmer for about 20 to 25 minutes to make sure that the rice gets done and the veggies get nice and done. This pot is a 10-in-1 multi-cooker. It's part of the Beautiful by Drew collection. Here's what our soup will look like whenever it's all complete, and you can see that it's nice and thick. It's not like super brothy, which is what my family enjoys. The next meal we're making is chili, and I never make chili the same way 2 different times. So even though I'm showing it how I make it this time, I always go with what I have on hand. It's never going to be the same way any amount of times. But we're making it in that giant multi-cooker again. I love that thing. It's 7 quarts. It's just a great size. And anyways, enough about that. I added that seasoning all to my meat. There's 2 pounds of ground deer in there, and I just kind of toasted the seasonings. That was also an onion, some garlic, a tomato chicken bouillon cube, and then my diced tomatoes. I don't think I ended up putting the tomato paste in there because I seen that I showed it, but I don't remember putting it in. But anyways, a ton of beans. I love lots of beans in my chili. And you can see I almost dropped that one in the pot, and my pot is getting overfilled, which is fine. It's wonderful. Lots of leftovers. Chili is my absolute favorite meal. And I never showed y'all another clip of the chili after it was completed. The next meal we're making is actually a super easy meal. It's spaghetti and meatballs. And so I'm just making my own sauce out of stuff that we had on hand, which was a can of, I think, crushed or diced tomatoes. It might have even been a can of whole tomatoes. I'm not sure. But there's also some carrots, onions, garlic. I leave it in humongous chunks because I just let it all cook down. I also like put my seasonings in there and all of that. And then I just use my immersion blender and blend it until it's all smooth. And then we don't have any big chunks of anything. And so my kids don't even know the difference between that and like the store-bought pasta sauce, which I still love that stuff too. You know, all I do with that is just pop a jar open. But anyways, I'm also making some meatballs on this night. Usually I do not make meatballs. I just like brown the meat in the skillet and then add it to my sauce. On this night, I'm also cooking the pasta in the sauce, which I love doing because I just feel like it gives the noodles such a great flavor. With the spaghetti, I'm also making a quick salad that I threw together out of random stuff that we already had. A can of green beans for those who would prefer green beans over salad, and then also some braided bread that I made. And then I also set out shaky cheese and hot sauce for those who would like it as well. Now I'm making some fried rice. On the side, we're going to have some dumplings and some egg rolls that we just had in our freezer, which led me to want to make the fried rice because those were in the freezer. Anywho, I am using up some Asian sesame sauce that I found at the discount store for only like 10 cents. It was a great deal in my opinion. Anywho, I steamed the peas and carrots in the microwave and I added them to the sauteed onions. Once I like how brown those are, I'm going to add my eggs to my skillet or my pan and cook them up. Then I'm going to add my rice and all of my sauces and just stir it together. Ideally, I would have made rice the day before so that way it would just have a better texture. If you do it the day of, it kind of does get a little mushy, but it's fine. No one's ever been injured from eating mushy rice. On this night, I'm making a creamy Cajun one pot pasta. Say that 3 times fast. Anyways, this is a new family favorite. My family has loved this every single time that I've made it. And it's very, very simple. Like I said, it's just all in one pan too. So you saute onions, garlic, bell pepper, mushrooms. If you don't have those things, it's not a deal breaker. Just use what you got. There's also smoked sausage that I saute in there. I think it would also be good like with some chicken or honestly meatless if you wanted to do meatless. And I very briefly showed y'all the seasonings that I was using. Chicken bouillon powder, and basically Cajun seasoning. If you don't want to make up your own seasoning blend, if you've got like Tony's Cajun seasoning or any Cajun seasoning blend, just use that. Now I don't even cook the pasta off on the side. I cook it off in the sauce. If you don't have coconut milk like I was using, you don't have to use coconut milk. You can use regular milk. Or you could use cream cheese, or really, if you wanted to, you could probably even leave it out. But, anyways, I also added Parmesan cheese to this mixture, and like I said, now this is where I add the pasta. I do not boil it off partially on the side, I cook it entirely in the sauce, and it turns out just as good. In fact, I think it turns out actually even better. But I cooked my pasta probably well over halfway, and then I added it to my pot, and then I'm going to let it simmer for an additional 5 to 10 minutes until it looks like all that sauce is absorbed into the noodles, and it will thicken as it cools also. I forgot to take a picture, so I showed y'all one of my kids' seconds. Ah, look, we are using a different vessel to cook things in. It is the slow cooker, and this is in slow-mo because I didn't take very much of a clip. Anyways, we are making some teriyaki chicken sliders, and there's chicken in the crock pot along with bell peppers, mushrooms, I think onions and garlic, and I'm for real using up the last of that Asian sesame dressing in this one. I thought I used it in the last one, and then here it appears again. But anyways, you just let it cook until you can shred your chicken, and we served it with some mushy fried potatoes because I had my pan preheated and then I put my potatoes in, and then somehow I managed to turn the heat off of them, and so they sat and steamed for a little while, but it was still delicious nonetheless. Alrighty friends, that is all for this video. I will have any recipes that I used linked in the description box, or if they were my creation, then I will kind of type it out. But anyways, most importantly, never forget that Jesus loves y'all and I love y'all too. I'll see you soon. Bye.